Welcome to Norfolk Perspectives. I'm Bob Batcher, and yes, some people have a reputation that precedes them. How's that for an introduction? I got Bill Bahen, the new director of Sail Nauticus.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being new, although you're not really new at sailing.
No, I've been sailing for a long time. I grew up sailing, so I've been doing a lot of that.
Cool. And you've been sailing in a similar environment as Norfolk?
Yeah, I put together an organization in Manhattan, right at 26th Street in Chelsea, that's very similar to what we're trying to do here at Nauticus. So, yeah, I've been through these grounds before.
Okay, I've heard all about the Sail Center from Hank Lynch and the leadership at Nauticus, so I think
Great.
I probably ought to ask you.
Right.
What is the vision for the Sail Center? Because we heard a lot about it. Your name was always associated with the pilot program and what the vision would be.
Right.
And the next thing we knew, you showed up.
I know, that was very serendipitous. It was amazing that it happened that way. I guess my vision of this sailing center is very similar to what I did in New York. I'd like to work with kids that are financially at risk, as well as kids from other areas of our community, and give them character development, leadership, academically enriching opportunity on the water through sailing and maritime sciences. And, it's been proven that it can be done, and I think we can do it here. It's going to take some time to educate those that kind of grant us what the non-negotiables are within the public school systems, but I think we'll get there.
Okay, well, let me ask you, so how can you accomplish all those goals when it's talking about putting a kid in a life vest, throwing him in a boat, and taking a leisurely sail down the river? Did I get it right?
Well, hopefully it won't always be leisurely, because I think that the sails that get a little
okay.
hectic are the ones you remember. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, I mean, you put a kid in a life jacket, you put him in a boat, and you go, right? There's more to it than just sailing.
Right, yeah, there's a lot more to it than just sailing. You know, on a sailboat, you don't typically use the engine to go sailing, so you've got to have all the sails trimmed correctly. You need to have somebody looking out to make sure you don't hit anything. You need to have somebody on the tiller or the driving wheel, however you want to understand it.
Because there is no steering wheel.
There's no gas pedal. There's no gas pedal, so you've got to work as a team. And you know, you need to be pointing the lines and trimming the sails correctly based on where the wind's coming from.
Not necessarily how you want to do it.
Right, yeah, you need to do it based on where the wind's coming from to get to a certain point, and it takes typically there's about 4 positions on a sailboat, and if they don't work in unison, they don't go anywhere.
Now, how do you know where the wind is?
Well, typically we have telltales on the top of the masts, but then you can also identify where the wind's coming from by shore markers like flags, and you know, after a while you kind of get.
So there's some deduction abilities.
Right.
And if you do the wrong thing, you could do you know it.
Very much so. I mean, it's very much an environment that has a lot of natural consequences. So I think if you don't do the things that you're taught, you don't do them with a high level of craftsmanship, things fall apart. And I think when you're working with young people, if you can set up an environment that sets them up for success, and there's a little bit of competition involved, and then if you can make it academically enriching on top of that, where there can be some credit recovery and things like that, I think it's kind of amazing what young people do when you put them in those perspectives, and it doesn't matter what their backgrounds are. Okay,
speaking of perspective, you got a perspective having a program that you took from nothing, built it, to a very successful sailing center in New York City, of all places.
Yeah.
Okay, how does Norfolk compare?
There's a lot of parallels. It's an urban environment. There's definitely a population here in Norfolk that could benefit from some experiential learning opportunities, like all of us, really. It's an industrial city. The Elizabeth River is a very busy river. It's very much like the Hudson River. It's got a lot of industrial and commercial traffic on it. It doesn't have as many ferries blasting from Manhattan over to Hoboken.
No, but wait a minute.
There's one going.
We have barges, we have aircraft carriers, we have Navy ships, and we do have the Staten Island Ferry.
I know, that's amazing. I did not know that.
It's up for dry dock, but you know, they come here.
Either way, it's really cool to know that that big orange ferry is.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I just thought it was an obnoxious color. And
right. No, you know where they are, for
sure.
Okay,
if somebody's interested in learning more about getting engaged in the Sail Center.
Yeah, you'd want to go to the website, sailnauticus.org, or come on down to Nauticus. We're in the back end of Nauticus.
Some would say the front end.
Yeah, it should be the front end, but there was a different vision back in the mid-90s, I think. But we're trying to recapture the waterfront area of Nauticus and create an environment that's going to be enriching for adults and kids.